Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you all for coming to attend the Senior Caucus debate. We want to be thankful. We're thankful for you guys to be. Oh my God, Julian, stop. We're thankful for you guys for coming. Thankful to all of the campaigns, all of our viewers, both those who are currently at Stuyvesant and graduates of Stuyvesant, and also a big thanks to our two debate moderators today, Calista and Raymond, who are going to be organizing and asking all the questions. So I'm going to hand it on over to Raymond now to give a quick explanation of how this is going to go.
Hi everyone, my name is Raymond, and along with Calista, we're debate moderators. So today we're just going to be asking a few questions, and the questions are kind of in a specific order. So the first questions we're going to ask are more general questions, and they're going to be questions that are for all the tickets to answer. And since there's only 2 tickets this year, we're just going to alternate on between calling one or the other. And then the next type of question is going to be questions specifically for one campaign. And these are also selected from a form that was sent out to everyone. After that, we're going to have audience questions, which can be typed in the chat or can also be asked through voice. And last but not least, we're going to allow tickets to ask each other questions. So there's also going to be a time limit to each answer. So there's going to be a 90-second time limit, and Calista will be timing. And when there are only 15 seconds left, she's going to send the clap reaction to let you know that there are only 15 seconds left. So yeah, so I'll hand it over to Calista to ask the first question.
Hello everyone. So let's begin. Let's begin with our opening speeches. And Corr, Sela, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. Yeah. Can I just go for it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Ayala. That's Katerina. The major objective of the Corr Sela campaign is to provide the class of 2021 with the best senior year possible. And what's really great about our campaign is that we're ready to hit the ground running. Due to circumstances, we have an election in the fall. We only have 10 months to enact all of these policies, get so much done right before we graduate STUY. And I can confidently say that on September 24th, if we're elected, we're ready to go with a strong, detailed plan that we're really passionate about and our team is passionate about. We have a history of overcoming challenges and getting really ambitious initiatives done, and we can't wait to make this final year at Stuyvesant the best that it can be on a variety of fronts. My running mate, Katerina, can elaborate on that.
Yes, so to be more specific about the different portions of our platform, we have divided our platform into 5 different sections, which are senior traditions, college support, amending school policy, connecting with you, and continuing past initiatives. And in essence, through each of these portions of our platform, we are ultimately working towards the ultimate goal, which Ayala said, which is ensuring the best experience for the senior class. Ayala and I are extremely committed to advocating for the best interest of seniors at all times. And so through our senior tradition, innovative solutions to going online and providing college support from start to finish, amending school policy to become a more inclusive environment, and connecting through our new and improved social media strategy, we will be directly targeting this goal and ensuring that we can provide the best experience possible with a variety of projects.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Oops, my timer just went off. On Lee, you can go.
Hi, class of 21. I'm Ruth Lee, running for co-president with the amazing Falina, Ongus. We want to say thank you to our hardworking team, the Board of Elections, and everyone who is watching here from home. Falina and I decided to run for Senior Caucus because we saw the fate of our senior year at risk, and we personally want to see change in policies for ourselves and for you. There is no reason why, amidst everything that is going on, that our senior year should be compromised at all. This is about our students, and we want to make sure that Caucus is a pillar for all our students to come together and be connected. In terms of experience, we have not run for Caucus before, but I personally have been a member of Caucus for the past 3 years, and in both of our activities, we've really been in the center of unifying our grade and making sure that we're celebrating our students, all the achievements that they've had, right? So like me as a producer for Sing has really opened my eyes to make sure that this is the kind of thing that can really bring our students together, or my work on the volleyball team or managing other club shows that I can handle and we can handle these responsibilities.
Yeah.
And hello, I'm Falina Ongus. I'm running with my co-president, Ruth. First of all, we just want to thank all of you for coming, and thank you, Sela, for the debate. We're looking forward to a good debate. So as far as leadership experience, I haven't run for caucus, of course, but I've been very honored to be one of the co-presidents of BSL the past 2 years, and that has taught me how to lead students, how to connect with people, and I feel like that's a great thing that we can bring into senior caucus. As far as our policies, just to reiterate and to stress it, we want to make we've heard our students' complaints, we've heard what they want to see for this year, and we have structured our policies around that to make sure that this is about them, and we are representing them in the best way possible. For sure.
All right, so the next question will be, in 3 words, describe your campaign. So Lee, you can go first.
I would say that we represent, right? And we're committed, and we're going to advocate for our students. So when we say that we represent, as a low-income, first-generation Asian American, I think I've really understood a lot of the problems that a lot of our seniors are facing right now, especially going into the college process, and even after really representing the kind of memories we've made, because Stuyvesant cultivates a specific type of culture. In terms of, really advocating for our students, we want to make sure that our students are really involved in this, and we want to make sure that our students feel proud of the experiences they've had in the past 3 years, because we're not going to get senior again. This is our last and final chance to really make this year count.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, like she said, we made sure that this is about all our students, not one particular group, not another. We've listened to what they've had to say. We want to make it about majority and the minority. And I think it's interesting that you would say 3 words, because we've actually structured our policies around something that we like to call ACT, which is our little acronym, 3 words. It's advocacy, community, tradition, which we are going to hold very dear for this year. We want to advocate for our students academically, make sure that they have those resources, because it's college applications, and we know that it's an important part. We want to stress the community and bring our students together, because that's something we've heard. Our grade is very fragmented, and we want to make sure that in their final year, they can come together and continue to foster those relationships that they've already built over these 3 years. And last of all, traditions, because traditions are very important in senior year. Our senior year is about that time that we get to have fun, that time that we do all these things that we've looked forward to.
All right, next, Corr, Sela.
Hi, I think that when you look at the Corr Sela campaign, it really boils down into 3 major ideas. It's innovation, collaboration, and representation. And when I say representation, I mean something slightly different from the Only campaign, so I'll elaborate on that. I think when I refer to innovation, I'm referring to extremely specific plans for moving online and increasing outreach and transparency. Not only are we going to follow in the footsteps of past caucuses with traditions, because we're repeating what we know works through experience and mentorship that we received from past caucuses, but we're also striving to be creative and push the boundaries as we approach this unprecedented time. In terms of collaboration, we're really unique as a campaign because we plan to collaborate with other caucuses, for example, on our newsletter and with SU on our pen pal programs. And in general, we've always been and will always be open to collaboration. You see throughout our entire platform that collaboration is at the core of our campaign. We believe that it's so important to bridge that gap and that tension between SU and caucus. And we're the ideal people to mend that tension and to bring the whole school together in a time like this. And lastly, just to elaborate on representation, we believe that as seniors that have been very involved the past years, we're close with a variety of student leaders of major clubs, and we could go directly to them to hear their thoughts and to represent these communities, number 1. And number 2, in terms of representation, I think that you'll see in general that we have a history of doing so. I think Katerina can actually elaborate on this.
Fortunately, I think that we have only a couple seconds left, but I will just say that I completely agree with what Ayala said about our campaign.
Yeah, okay, on to the next question. The 3rd question is, tell us a little about yourselves, including experience you may have and the qualities that make you a good fit for this position. Corr, Sela, you may start.
Sure, I guess I can get started on that. I think that when it comes to the Corr Sela campaign, when we discuss our experience, we aren't just talking about the fact that Ayala and I have been working together on Caucus for 3 years, but rather the relationships that we've built with administrators and other student government officials, in addition to the challenges that we've overcome. Just to highlight 2 of the challenges that we've overcome, one of them was organizing the junior prom contract for this year. Unfortunately, of course, we didn't have a junior prom because of coronavirus, but the contract is already organized for this year's Junior Caucus, which I think is going to be a great asset to them in terms of time and organizing their own projects. I think that Ayala can talk a little bit more about the second challenge that we faced in terms of the Physics 1 change.
Absolutely. So that was a major part of our senior year, and I think that really demonstrated our close relationship with administration and how important we believe student representation is. Last year, AP Physics 1 course was canceled, and we worked immediately really closely with administration to organize physics review sessions, which were canceled in person but then brought online, and hundreds of students enjoyed. We organized AP Physics exam refunds, and we also negotiated reasonable lab expectations, not only getting every single student a book, but also pushing back the deadline for review questions, which really stressed students out. All these initiatives were incredibly successful. And yeah, I think that's an incredible demonstration of a struggle that we had, and an example of when we worked really closely with both the STU and the administration.
Okay, Anli?
When it comes to communication with the administration, Falina and I have great experience in our own realms, right? So for example, my work with SING, I worked in close contact with not only the SU, but the administration, making sure that we can really bring our students together and put on an amazing show. We have the co-president of BSL here, which is extremely important now because they've organized so many important events and worked very closely with the administration to kind of make sure that our students are informed and educated. But more importantly than that, we are connected with our students. We've heard and understood, what our students are looking forward into their senior year and what's at risk here. We really want to sort of embody the students' opinions and make sure that in the center of our caucus is our students. We're being transparent, we're being accessible, and we're being approachable by our student body.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, like you said, in our own capacities, we've had those relationships with the administration and made sure that we're working with them, which we will definitely bring into senior caucus and make sure that's an important part. But just to stress that we've also been able to create connections with the students, which is what senior caucus and being leadership and representing people is ultimately about. And that's what we're going to go forward with.
All right, so next, what encouraged you to run? Only, you can go.
So I think one of the biggest things that encouraged us to run was especially over this quarantine. A lot of students are wondering, well, why run now during senior caucus, right? We really wanted to make sure that our grade was being heard, and especially because of Corona, our seniors' interests and their grades are at risk. There are things that really aren't in the realm, right? This is uncharted territory, of course. No one would have planned for a coronavirus to hit as strongly as it did. However, the sentiments of our students, the importance of our students to be on top, to make sure that they're being celebrated and that they can look upon their experience 20 years from now and be like, this was a year that we made things happen. This was the year when initiative was taken, and that leadership really helped connect our students together is so important. And that initiative wasn't being taken during quarantine. And a lot of our student bodies were worried. How is their senior year going to be affected? What is going to happen? What are the big changes that we'll be losing? And we want to make sure that none of those are being lost, and we want to make sure that those sentiments are still intact.
And we feel that it's really important in order to make this the best year for seniors as possible, is that it's, especially this year, it's more than just about following the status quo. Mm-hmm. More than anything, we're going to need people who are bringing new ideas and change, because if we're going to find the best ways to deal with what's been given us, which we could never have planned for, is to make sure that we have new input. We have people who are telling us what they want to see, and this is more than just following what we've always done.
Corr Sela.
So Ayala and I recognize the immense challenge that is going to be posed to the senior caucus in the coming year in terms of coronavirus. Of course, we don't know exactly what is going to happen with graduation, prom, SING, and of course the college process is changing as we speak. And we recognize this immense challenge, and through our campaign, we have created innovative policies and new initiatives, as the online ticket said, because we completely agree on the value of initiative, to ensure that we are targeting these very specific concerns. So in addition to this general area, we have very specific ideas that are new. So in addition to moving online the traditions that we've had in the past, like creating a senior banner or creating posters around the senior atrium. We've also introduced new things, like having a virtual senior dinner to create a motivational send-off to our senior year. Or in our college support section, we have decided to create a new newsletter that doesn't just summarize information that can be found through the college office or online. We are introducing a unique resource that is going to be especially helpful to seniors, where we reach out to Stuyvesant alumni to discuss colleges that they currently attend, and provide this information to students to help decide which schools that they are ultimately interested in. One of the other innovative things that we have come up with is having a panel specifically with Stuyvesant alumni. I think that one of the topics that isn't often covered when it comes to college panels is how to actually get through the college process with resilience and not burning out. And we want to speak directly with Stuyvesant alumni to take their advice and share this really valuable information with Stuyvesant seniors so that we're all able to successfully get through this next year.
Okay, right on time. The next question is, what makes you stand out from other candidates, especially the incumbents? Then for the incumbents, what past policies are you most proud of from last year's caucus? We'll start with Corr, Sela.
Yeah. I think that when you look at our platform, when you look at the OnLeap platform, you'll very quickly realize that our goals are quite similar, but ours go beyond that. But I'll talk about that later. I think this is actually phenomenal for two major reasons. First of all, it's an indication that our campaign has a really strong grasp of the class of 2021. I mean, if there's someone running against us and their major points are a subset of ours, I think that means that we're really representing the entire student body and what they want from a senior caucus. And secondly, I think that this allows voters to focus their judgment on which campaign is more able and equipped to carry out these initiatives. I think that it's absolutely evident that we're the ideal candidates for this undertaking. Not only do we have years of experience collaborating with administration, which the OnLeap campaign lacks, a deep comprehension of what's feasible due to our past mentorship experience, and I think the biggest thing really is the difference in our campaign is our approach. When you look at our platform, it includes a clear step-by-step description of how we're going to implement every single policy, and that's just another testament to how we're organized and really assertive. Our platform goes beyond that of OnLeap's, and I'm going to talk about something that I referred to earlier, which is representation. Our take on representation is very different. We realize that not everyone is interested in spirit building or even senior traditions. I think that we're at a time where we need to represent every single student, which refers to school policy, which refers to culturally responsive education, and refers to remote learning policy and communicating with the administration regarding all of these issues.
Lee?
Okay, so we both know that both our campaigns are very professional and we both put in a lot of work. And what we've seen is, as someone who wasn't a member of Caucus myself, I can say that what I've seen and what I've heard from other people is that in the past, Caucus has been very focused on academics and making sure that people had the resources they had as far as school. And while that's all well, we believe that something that is very important that was neglected is making sure that we're building that community. Our class going into our senior year is very, very fragmented. We haven't been together, and especially with the situation now, that leaves more time than ever for us to fall apart. But what we need is to make sure that we have events, make sure that we are connecting our students, that we are bringing the fun after all these years, and they're able to meet with their friends and they're able to build that Sty spirit that hasn't been there before.
It's important to recognize that our seniors are not just students graduating. We're people and we're a family, right? There are relationships that are going to be built in senior year that will carry on. And Caucus needs to be the hub where students look forward to meet new people, to interact with each other. All of our policies address that, right? Address that we need to be a family, that we can come together, whether it's our yearbook signing website, whether it's coming together and using the skills of our graphic designers to design masks for our students, whether it's, having our guidance counselors being in contact with the administration. We're making sure that the individual is being recognized in the realm of having a whole community and family come together.
All right, so next, how will your policies benefit and accommodate seniors now that the majority of students are learning in a remote environment? What remote learning policies will you implement should you be chosen that will benefit the student body? Lee, you can go first.
So our campaign is taking the initiative to really recognize that right now is a trying time. We're starting a little later. Students are already on their feet trying to run with college apps, and we recognize that. And usually in an in-person setting, we will be able to keep each other accountable. But at home, we have to keep ourselves accountable, and that's harder. And we also want to make sure that our students don't feel overwhelmed, that we're offering resources to really help them and aid them throughout this process. This is why on our website, you'll already see a resource list, an extensive resource list, filled with questions and FAQs and resources that we've gathered from students. We're going to clear up conversations with guidance. We want to make sure that, they can set up meetings, they can know the applications, and really create a conversation where students don't feel overwhelmed and they know where they're going with their college apps and they feel supported by their caucus.
Mm-hmm. So just to reiterate, we are making sure that even if we're online, even if people can't connect in person, we want to make sure that there's still that connection, that they're connecting to other students, that they're connecting to the administration, and that they're connecting to alumni to make sure that they have those resources for college. And that's why we feel that our caucus wants to make sure that even with things being online, that's what we focus on.
Corr, Sela?
So we have very much considered the remote and very much online environment for the next year in our platform. And I think that that is especially evident in our senior traditions section. We recognize that most senior traditions are very much reliant on being in person and participating in activities that are like physical and like you're able to see them. And so to the best of our ability, we have made sure to preserve this sentiment and ensure that we are emulating the experience as best as possible. So one example that I can give of this in our platform is our Zoom background competition and redesign of the 2021 cover photo. So with the Zoom background competition, we are emulating the traditional posters that go up around the senior bar. And then with the cover photo redesign, we're going to do a graphic art piece that emulates the banner in front of the senior bar. Although we may not get these experiences, we want to ensure that we are giving as close of a representation as we can to this year's seniors. I wanted to give Ayala a chance to elaborate on that.
Absolutely. I think something consistent you see in our platform is that what we're describing is exactly what you're going to get. And our platform covers a massive range of topics, which I think essentially advocate for students in every single possible way that they care about. You also see that it's very specific. When we talk about major events that do build community, which is something that Only is clearly very invested in, including graduation, prom, and sing, they don't have much of a plan for it, number one. And number two, it's the only thing they focus on. Whereas we have a big picture plan for the entirety of the year. At every single point, we're providing support and bringing ourselves together.
Okay, the next question, I know you guys both mentioned this before, but what are some specific plans you have on making this a fun, productive, and memorable year for seniors, despite the numerous unknowns concerning the future? And how do you plan on replacing the typical senior events such as prom, graduation, etc., as well as continuing senior traditions? Corr, Sela.
I think Katerina can start off with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the way that we are targeting this year in terms of relieving stress and just making sure that it's an overall fun year comes in two portions. And the first is with senior traditions, as we mentioned, with the general spirit building. And the second is with college support, because we know that that is something that is going to be genuinely stressing a lot of seniors. And so two unique things that I wanted to highlight about these policies are our partnerships that we plan to have with other organizations at Stuyvesant. So when it comes to college support, we're planning to have a partnership with the Writing Center to organize after-school sessions for students to independently work on their college applications and speak to student editors if they'd like. This not only provides an opportunity for students to become motivated by working with other people around them, but also to talk to experienced editors, student editors, and get their opinion on different things. And the second partnership that we plan to have is with the Indicator. So as they're planning to do every year, they do their actual spirit days. And this year they're going to be, of course, online between dress-up days and sending in pictures. And we think that an excellent way to improve spirit and expand the reach of this is to organize events that are around these theme days, like movie nights or trivia nights. And we think that this is one of the ways that we can make this year a lot more fun. And finally, something that I wanted to mention is that we are putting a really big emphasis on our social media this year. And when we're not just providing updates, we will be doing a variety of activities that can be accessed between our plan for a virtual senior atrium and our plan to continue with an active Instagram and Facebook account. We plan to include polls and puzzles and quizzes and different things to engage with us when it's not just having to do with our updates.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if I have time, I'd like to add to that. I think that our real-time updates is a shift that we're specifically promising to do. So I think it's going to be a lot more effective and comforting for students to know exactly what's going on as we work on these big picture projects, number one. And I think number two, we're essentially the best advocates.
Time's up.
That's okay.
Sorry. Only.
Okay, so our plan, we've already stressed a lot that we want to make this a fun and enjoyable year for seniors, and I want to bring up that we do have a plan for prom. I'd like to point out that on their website, they're mentioned prom once and don't actually talk about any plan they have, but we, on the other hand, we know obviously that things are uncertain right now. So we want to make sure that we're advocating for prom as much as possible. If it can happen, we want to make sure that that's happening. But to make sure that we are planning for everything, we have a plan where we are going to let students come together and take their prom pictures, maybe in groups of 5 to 10 or such, and have that place where even if they're not able to do prom in person, they can connect and they can still have that prom feeling. And as far as social media, we understand that's a very important platform this year. And we believe we have fun events planned for social media that not just allow students to get the support they need, but also we have our plan to do senior spotlights. We're making sure we're showcasing the artistic talent of our students, that this is about them and that we see what they've been doing this year.
Mm-hmm. Social media is a platform meant to invite our students to collaborate, right? So when we're making videos for graduation, recognizing the memories that we've made, we're taking up community spiritual events that will really rise and bring our students together. You know, I think it's really funny we talk about community because Junior Caucus, one of the few things they did was hold a pep rally, and I went, but our caucus presidents weren't there. These are things that we should have done earlier before, and we really should have helped beforehand, and that's why our policies are directly addressed to creating a community where students can come together and really show off and be one family.
All right, so for the next question, for seniors, the first semester is filled with worries over college applications, essays, and deadlines. How will you work to ensure that students can still get access to the help they need and resources to use? Only.
I think one of the biggest things we've done so far, of course, is already having an access list. Once again, reaching out that this isn't just about us winning. This isn't about us at all. It's about our grade. It's making sure that our grade is ready and we understand the struggles that are going to come up and we want to make sure that that communication is clear and that we're supporting them. But another big thing is that we're going to set up in partnership with the alumni mentorship, we're going to have a system where we'll have a database of mentors so students can be able to set up in meetings with these mentors and get essay feedback. We've already have 20 to 30 mentors and this will already grow, right? And this is in addition to the Writing Center because the Writing Center is super packed right now, along with there are not enough undergraduates to fund our whole school. As a term to the alumni who already have experience with the college process, they will really help open their eyes and get that support that they need.
Yeah, and just to add on, our commitment to helping seniors with their college process is not just something that we're saying. As when we put those resources out, we did it. We showed them. This is something that matters to us, and this is something that we're going to put first to make sure that you still have those resources. And in addition to the alumni network she was talking about, which would get them in contact with alumni to help them, we know that meeting with counselors was something that was a really important thing last semester, and some seniors didn't get to do that. So we're setting up a process on Calendly where counselors can put the time that they're available and students just can sign up so that they can have that resource that they weren't able to get.
Corr, Sela.
Sure. So this is something that I mentioned before, but I'll go a little bit deeper into the very specific things that we have for our college support section. So when Ayala and I were creating this part of our platform, we wanted to make sure that we had parts to help students from writing essays to commitments. Although in the question you mentioned that college applications are primarily during the first semester of senior year, we think that this is something that we need to target during the entire year. And so I talked a little bit about the work sessions with the Writing Center, but I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on our college newsletter. This is something that the Junior Caucus started earlier this year. We released a checklist over the summer for students to be more prepared going into the fall semester. And although we think that it is very useful to have a compilation of different materials as as the online campaign did. We think that it's more useful to bring something that is unique and different to the table. Those materials are available widely online and can be accessed through the college office. Whereas a college newsletter where we cover different colleges and interview Stuyvesant alumni about their experience there in comparison to Stuyvesant, this is something that hasn't been seen before. We also wanted to mention that the Corr Sela ticket firmly believes in celebrating our accomplishments. And in the spring, we plan to either have a College Features Instagram account or a college map to make sure that we are celebrating all of our seniors in a way that is positive for all.
Okay, the next question is, there are a lot of promising goals and policies, but how do you intend to keep in touch with the student body on what they think? How will you work to be a liaison between the new student union and the student body as the school heads into an unprecedented school year? And we'll start with Corr Sela.
Sure. So I think that Ayala and I really recognize that transparency is incredibly important. And we also recognize that this is definitely something that we can improve on, and that is something that we've included in our platform. In the last semester, when we transitioned to remote learning, one of the primary concerns of a lot of juniors was whether or not we were going to have a junior prom. And unfortunately, we weren't sure whether or not that was going to happen, but we were in constant communication with Mr. Palazzo, who is the coordinator of student affairs, and other administrators to figure out whether or not this is something that could actually be possible. And to respond to something that Anli said about prom graduation and sing, Ayala and I were very intent in the policies that we included in our platform, and we're very specific about making concrete plans for the first semester, but being more broad towards the second semester, because as we have experienced these past couple of months, situations can change like that. And we are very committed to not making promises that we can't keep. I think that Ayala can elaborate a little bit more on being a liaison.
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned this previously, but our vision of representation for our entire grade is different from Only's on a fundamental level. We recognize that we can represent students in the sense that as seniors, we're close with student leaders of a variety of major organizations, and we'll be communicating directly with them. And they represent not just so many seniors, but the entire school. So if you're talking about Red Cross, about dance groups, about robotics, and on, these are senior leaders, and they're representing so many people. And I think that if we communicate with them, we're essentially communicating with everyone.
Anli.
Well, the first form of transparency is including our student body in all of our policies, right? Not from the 7 updates that happened over the year, but really being in touch with them and being one body with them. And it's not just being in touch with the leaders of the clubs, but actually being in touch with all of the student body. Because as leaders, we're not trying to lead our grade, we're trying to represent our grade. It's not about who says the most fanciest speeches, it's not about who shows the most professionalism, it's about who understands our grade at its core and who's willing to take those extra steps to get to know our grade. And so I think the way that we've set it up, our policies invite all of our students, acknowledging that we are one together, and only as a whole can we really come together to make this year shine.
All right, so for our last general question before we move on to the next section, what do you think last year's senior caucus could have done better, and how would you rectify it? Anli?
Okay, so again, we want to stress that we believe, of course, last year a lot of things happened, and we believe Corr Sela has done a great job of leading our student body these past 2 years. But one thing that, as someone who wasn't a part of caucus, and one thing I've heard from other people is that there could have been a lot more communication. There were a lot of great events that were sent out, but not very many people knew about it. And that led to the fragmentation that we see now, that there wasn't, the community building events didn't actually build community. And we want to make sure that that's something we focus on and make sure that our events bring our students together.
And when it talks to understanding what a good senior caucus does, we've been in close contact with past President Hannah Jun, who was president of 2019. We've heard resources from our student body. We've been in touch with the events team from a few years ago. We've really done our homework to make sure we understand what a senior caucus entails and how we can make sure that we're keeping in touch. This is why you'll see a lot of us rectifying things that didn't work last year, right? Like the senior award ceremonies, or how are we going to get yearbook signatures? We're really trying to make sure that the memories that weren't happening last year because of the abruptness of Corona, we're making sure that we can smooth over those and make sure that our students receive everything that they can, including building off of new ideas and creating our own legacy, of course.
Corr Sela?
Yeah, so the question was actually asking about last year's senior caucus, not us, but thank you for the feedback. We'll take it into consideration. We were really close with last year's two co-presidents, and I think that we saw them go through senior year every step of the way. We got their feedback even before Corona, because they were fantastic mentors, and again, that's something that we want to do for younger caucuses as well. It's a major priority. But I think that as we watch them go through trials and tribulations with Corona, which is obviously unprecedented and not their fault at all, essentially what came about was that seniors didn't get awards in time, there was a diploma issue, there were a bunch of logistical issues that didn't go through. But I think that because we were in such close communication with them, and it was so important for us to be prepared for senior year, even in junior year, what happened was that we have all of this internal wisdom and not just murmurings from outside, and we have concrete steps to go forth and rectify past issues, number one. And two, we know specifically what to meet with administration about from day one, so that when we get to the end of the 10-month period, we have the best senior year possible, number one. All these issues are handled in the case that we're still handling COVID issues. And if we're not, I think we're even more prepared to handle in-school traditions, because again, we've seen this year after year in all of these caucuses that have mentored us. So I just think that we're coming from a place of a lot more information and a lot more intent. Everything's very specific.
Only.
We went the first time.
Oh, sorry, my internet got cut out for a moment. We're going to go on to the specific questions now. And this first question is for Corr Sela. Introduce the first question.
So why should we give you another year?
So I think that this is something that Ayala touched on before, but we are very dedicated to advocating in the absolute best interest of our grade. And we have showed this time and time again, that this is something that we are really dedicated to, and Caucus has been one of our major extracurriculars. Although I participate in a number of other things outside of school and in school, this is something that I consider to be extremely important, and that's why I decided to run again. And I think that Ayala feels similarly. We have been working together for 2 years as Caucus co-presidents, and Ayala was also a member of the freshman caucus cabinet while I was the president. And we have built a really strong relationship together, and we work very well together. And we are very collaborative within our team and outside of our team in terms of getting feedback. And that is something that I think makes us a very effective caucus.
I think additionally, going off of what Katerina said, what you'll see is that every year we're getting better and better and better. And so you know inherently that we're going to be better than we were last year. You don't have any track record on Lee. You have no idea what's going to happen. You're like, I don't know if you want to take that risk with your senior year. In our spectator reviews every year, you see that we take deeply into consideration what they say, what students say, and every year we're changing and shifting our policies. So for example, this year, we heard that last year there wasn't that much transparency. We're switching over to real-time updates. We're also changing the structure of our caucus. And furthermore, you'll see that we're so dedicated to caucus that it's the primary thing that both Katerina and I have done in school every single year, while on Lee have all of these other extracurriculars going on. We're promising you 100% of our attention.
This next question is for Only, and it asks, why should we pick you over Corr Sela, who has been in office for 3 years?
I think we've really taken into consideration into why you've been running for senior year, and we touched upon this before, but so much of our student body has come to us and said that they wish that there was more community building events. We wish that we had felt more like a grade. And going to senior year, the transparency and the initiative has not been taken in the past. And I'll talk about leadership. Leading SING, one of the few events that really connects our body together, and being in close contact with the administration, as we have the co-president BSL here, we've really taken initiative into making sure that our students are coming together and having events that will really bring our students together and make them the focus, not just making events that have in contact with administration and working on, the fluff around it, but what are the events that will really put our students right in the center and things that they'll genuinely be excited about. That's what's really important for our senior year. And that has been done, and we're afraid that our senior is going to be compromised. And it shouldn't. It should not be compromised, and we shouldn't be compensating for anything. We should be going ahead, creating new policies, because this is an uncharted year. It requires for us to create a new legacy, because our year will be looked upon as to what could have been different and how well we can rise above the occasion.
All right, so the next question goes to Corr Sela. Your ticket believes in, according to your platform, that it is important for all seniors to be trained in implicit bias and to work towards recognizing it. What do you hope to implement in order to reach this goal?
Absolutely. So I think that something that Only and the Corr Sela ticket share is our belief in being very socially aware. I think that we can agree that being aware of social issues and being engaged in like civically is one of the essential qualities for becoming a positive global citizen. However, our approach to this issue is very different. Only's ticket plans to organize government sessions to call government officials to talk about issues that they're passionate about. And while I feel that this is an admirable event, frankly, it's just engaging those who are already interested in social justice and are engaged. Whereas Ayala and I believe that it's important to engage all seniors, not just those who are already interested in social justice. And to target specifically what you're talking about with implicit bias, I personally took time during the summer to take an implicit bias course because I think that it's really important to learn more about our biases and learning how to combat them. And so Ayala and I will be advocating for its inclusion for seniors because we feel that if we're able to have implicit bias training going into college, we will be more open-minded and accepting individuals. The second part of this social awareness policy has to do with amending the curriculum. And although this is different from the implicit bias training, this is something that we can do to leave a legacy at Stuyvesant and ensure that it's something that benefits the school environment as a whole, and benefits our younger classmates.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify, my internet went out. It's still a little choppy. Is it okay if I just say 10 seconds? Both Katerina and I come from different backgrounds in terms of our passions about this. Katerina has done work with disaster preparedness. She's done work in voting, and I've actually done work in health equity, health justice, and hospital administration. And yet both of us separately came together, sat down, and said, this is exactly the time to work on this. And I think it just represents that we have a much greater vision for how this should be implemented and how we can genuinely reach out to every single student. So whatever background you have, whatever interests you in school, whatever subjects you care about, I think this is something that we can all become involved in a really productive manner.
This is for Only. In your platform, you mentioned that it is extremely important to contribute to your community and act as advocates for social change. In what ways do you intend to help students fight social injustice?
As a grade, we realized that we are all extremely academically privileged. But a caucus is not just about supporting our students, but connecting our students to stand up for our community. Right now is a huge change for social justice. And as we enter the workforce and continue to move out of Stuyvesant, the things that will connect us is our passion for our community, right? And so actually, Falina and I sat in, and we're gonna throw a shout out to Sarai, where we actually called government officials on a Zoom call with 30 or so students. And there was that sentiment that we were being together and we were making change. It's the fact that students are taking time in Stuyvesant to recognize the world events around us and really, respond to that and be a helpful change and do grassroots to make things different. Do you want to go into the implicit bias?
Yeah, and as far as the implicit bias training, just a few questions. We believe that it's a good idea, and there's definitely, you can use that to reach a lot of the student body, but we would just like to hear more about, maybe later if you would put that on, how you're actually going to implement this and make sure that this is something that, with everything going on, that students actually do, and how are you going to make sure that this isn't just a class that students sit in on, not caring, and get through it just because it is, and that it actually reaches out to students and makes it clear that this is something that social advocacy is something that is important to everyone and things have to change.
So the next question goes to the Corr Sela ticket. How will events like virtual dinners and virtual atriums work?
Sure, so I can explain the logistics of those two policies. So starting with the virtual dinner, this is something that has been implemented at a number of schools throughout the country. I mean, I have, like most of my friends are from out of state, so I have been talking to them about some of their senior traditions, and this is something that really stuck out to me. And so traditionally, this is an event that is held in person. It's like a potluck style event where students bring in like a bunch of food and everybody has a lot of fun listening to teacher speakers and stuff and such. But for us, because unfortunately we aren't able to do that right now, what we plan to do when it comes to the senior dinner is invite teacher speakers to record videos of themselves giving a short motivational speech to this year's seniors. And a couple of those in addition to our footage from the senior sunrise. And so compiling all of this and creating a motivational sort of event. We plan to stream this as like a webinar. And if students aren't able to attend, we'll post it on YouTube for students to view at any time. In terms of the virtual senior atrium, we would like to create a group that is exclusive to seniors. The Dear Incoming Class of 2021 group is excellent, but of course it isn't exactly exclusive to seniors. And we would like to do something that is to emulate the senior atrium. When it comes to the senior atrium traditions, which is why we would like to create the group in the first place, we're planning to create Padlets, which is essentially an online platform where you can like collaborate on like a different, like on a poster-like thing. Can't really explain it that well. And also posting about different activities so that we can emulate the experiences that happen, like the Thanksgiving turkey and the crush list and different things that we do in the senior atrium, but doing them online and just for seniors.
Okay, and this is the final specific question for Only. How do you suggest creating a more flexible schedule for both guidance counselors and students?
So actually, we were in contact with a college counselor who had started using this system. And we asked a lot of our student bodies, how can you really get administration and student bodies to work together and kind of clear that conversation? And a lot of them said that they weren't able to meet their guidance counselors or their college counselors, right? And so we had thought of the idea of having Calendly, which is essentially where guidance counselors will create their own meetings based on their own schedule, send it out to students, and students will literally just sign up and immediately a Zoom link will be sent out to both parties. And they'll both get an invitation reminding them of the meeting. This clears up the whole conversation of the back and forth between guidance counselors and, being like, oh, when is this due? And when is that due? When is this meeting? Can't make it? And all of that muffle, as opposed to having a clear, direct conversation that Caucus will look over and to make sure that our students are getting all the support that they can get.
And it's important to stress that this isn't replacing the way things have been. It's making sure that there is a fluid way that students and counselors can connect with each other and interact to make sure, like she said, that there's not that back and forth of what day can you go? I can't go this day, but making sure that it is a direct, it's direct so that the times are set and students are more sure and able to meet with their counselors.
All right, so next we're going to go into audience questions. So if the audience has any questions, they can type in the chat, or if they wish, they can unmute themselves and ask any ticket a question that they wish to ask. So does anyone have any questions? All right, if not, then we can move on to the tickets asking each other questions. And also, yeah,
I can ask a question.
Oh, okay.
I'm Julian, in case you guys didn't know. And I was going to quickly ask, we've heard a lot about, people talking about working with administration, but Senior Caucus actually does not work a lot with the administration. One of the main things they actually do is only work with the COSA, and the COSA usually does a lot of the work with administration. So I guess my question is, do people actually understand the responsibilities of the caucus while running for it here?
Can I answer that?
Oh, yeah.
And then I can go off of that as my intern is finally working.
I personally disagree with you. I do think that the Senior Caucus should be in coordination with administration, especially this year considering the coronavirus. If you remember last year when we organized the J-Prom contract, we were in constant communication with different members of the administration, in addition to Mr. Palazzo, because this was a situation that involved different volunteers and whether or not this could actually happen. I was in Mr. Moran's office a number of times talking to him about getting different volunteers and ensuring that it was coming from the right place and making sure that it was set by all of his guidelines. And considering that coronavirus is directly related to his position name, which is having to do with health and the safety of our students, I think that it's safe to assume that we will be coordinating with a number of administrators in addition to Mr. Palazzo.
I think I'd like to add to that as well. We have a history of getting mentorship and support from past caucuses, and I'm really glad that you're here, Vishwa, because you know that we always go to you with questions whenever we need support, of course. So again, I think that's just a testament to our dedication. Whenever we make decisions as a senior caucus, they're really informed. They're based on what we've seen works in the past, doesn't work in the past. And you have been someone that's really helped us. So I think, again, that's just a testament to the fact that we have a much bigger vision. And our goals are realistic. I think all of them are completely feasible. We've run them through several people. We've gotten approval about them. So yeah, I think that speaks to us as a campaign entirely.
Only, would you like to go?
Well, there was mention before about how, we are hearing murmurs or maybe we don't have enough experience. Once again, in our individual realms, we are extremely in contact with the administration that would head all of these programs. In addition to that, however, they talked about murmurs about how us not knowing exactly how Senior Caucus works. We have taken the privilege of meeting every 2 days with our campaign managers to really take in time to meet up for a video. We have talked to Hannah Kim, who was last year's president, to get a rundown of all the ideas and get an approval from her. We've talked to Hannah Jung, who's president 2 years ago. We've reached out to guidance counselors. We've reached out to the student body to ask them if our policies are, feasible to them, if they're willing to approve of them. Because it's not just about the approval of the administration. It's not just about the approval of us and our caucus. It's about the approval of the students. Are these events that they're going to fight for? Are these events that they're going to show up for? Because, of course, student participation has always been an issue, whether it's the 3 or 4 students that show up to AP sessions, or whether it's, having movie nights right outside the atrium, not even in the auditorium, and having a minimum of students show up. We want to make sure that we have events that students are going to show up and be proud of.
Okay, great. Sarai asked in the chat, what's the benefit of implicit bias training over group style conversation? Yeah, Corr, Sela, you can go.
Sure. So to address this question, yes. So I think that what we're trying to portray here is that we think that implicit bias training is important. We don't think that it's more important than discussion style conversation. And we think that group style conversation exists at Stuyvesant. And we think that introducing implicit bias training is a very tangible way that all students can become involved. And I think that this would be a good time to address a question that Only included in one of their responses about specifically implicit bias training. And so we think that it is very important at this time to engage in these conversations with administrators. And I guess this goes back to Vishwa's question about engaging administrators. But this is about having these conversations about how we can include implicit bias in the curriculum. And when we say including implicit bias training in the curriculum, even if it's not, like if we aren't able to get our #1 goal, we have a number of backup plans when it comes to this. And that includes having teachers just mention something like this during the class. And I know that you said that it's like, how do we make sure that everybody cares about this? And you know what? It's impossible to make sure that everybody cares about this. But with introducing this from a number of different lenses, it's not just the caucus talking about implicit bias anymore, it's a number of teachers and guidance counselors who are saying it. And when it's coming from multiple sources, I think that over time, this is something that will resonate with students, and introducing it earlier rather than later.
As well, Katerina, I think as well, something that's really important to us, and we mentioned this during our spectator interview, is that we're committing to going to the roundtable talks every time. And as student leaders, give that example that everyone should go. Because if we're going, everyone should go. And it should be a massive part of everyone's day. It should be a priority for everyone. And it's just such an easy, small thing to do as student leaders and as representatives that everyone should get involved with as well.
So Sarai also added in the chat that the vice versa of the question, which would be, what's the benefit of group style conversation over the benefit of implicit bias towards Only? And they can also respond to Corr.
Yeah, so as to that question, we weren't planning on doing implicit bias training, and that was for a couple of reasons. So one is that, well, we had already brought up the logistics. This is something that has an immense cost. We know that that's something that we'd have to work with, not just the school administration, but the DOE with, if we wanted to do. And it's very hard to bring together, especially at a time like this. So that's why we hadn't included it in our policies. But what we had wanted to do was we wanted to bring people together to more than just learning about what's going on, to actually have an impact, to do something, to make sure that, because I think the problem we run into with something like this is it's a lot of words. It's a lot of let's post on Instagram, like a black square over the summer or whatnot, but it's about action. That's really what we need.
Okay, the next question is from Isabella, and it's to Corr, Sela. It asks, do you think that your initiatives have seriously helped school spirit and bringing the school together?
So I think that in our platform, you can see that school spirit is definitely one of our priorities. In the past, we have definitely focused on academics, but this past year, you can see that a number of our policies and projects were surrounding working on spirit-based activities. We held a movie night in school. We held 2 bake sales. We held a movie night outside of school. We also did a couple of study calls. Like, these were all things that were based around spirit. We had a cookbook that we posted. And I think that Ayala can elaborate on exactly why we think that spirit is so important.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, to answer your question, yes, absolutely. Even if our past initiatives were academic based, I think that giving students in such a stressful environment kind of support and this active, something to lean on with our study guides, with our checklists, all these initiatives that are academic based, it's giving students time to go hang out with their friends, to go do clubs, to go do sing, which is one of the most stressful weeks for everyone, or 2 weeks for everyone. And I think that kind of sport is exactly what student needs, and that really increases spirit, because I mean, if you're cutting away from the thing that kind of makes Sty really hard, and you're giving students more time for what they love, what they want to do, and to hang out with their friends, absolutely you're increasing spirit. Yeah.
This question is for the on-lee ticket. Alina asks, the job of a senior class representative extends beyond bolstering school spirit and maintaining school traditions. How are you equipped to do the unseen, dirty work required as a senior class president, and what do you think that may encompass?
Well, I'm going to break this up into 2 parts. Of course, it's one thing to know what to do, and it's another thing to constructively apply it, right? Whether that is through the 2 bake sales from our PTCs, the 2 movie nights, one that was held virtually, the other one that was outside of the atrium, not even the auditorium, the fact that there were very little email updates, the fact that the Instagram and the social media has not been up to include our junior caucus as opposed to just update them. These are things that they knew, but they couldn't act upon, right? But for us, you know, we've really worked with our campaign managers, even in the process before we're in office, to take the initiative to make sure that, we've been doing our homework. We've talked to past presidents, we've talked to administration, all of our policies, we've talked to student body to include them on this. We've already established, the resource list on our websites. We've met up for videos. We've been meeting every night. Me and Falina call every night to make sure that our policies are feasible to the student body. We've really been taking that commitment, and we understand that at caucus, there are times that this year it'll be hard. And there are times when, college apps are coming up and we'll be extremely stressed. But being a caucus president means that serving your people first. And that means that we're going to put our caucus above ourselves, which is why the, effects and the results of the amount of work we put in and knowing the dirty work will be there, as shown in our campaign.
Okay, the next question is from Patrick, and it's to Corr Sela. It asks, how will you make sure that the Writing Center will be able to accommodate the majority of seniors, because I believe there are only 20 writers and only a few undergraduates, and they are often busy with the other grades as well. In addition, will the underclassmen be prepared to deal with editing a common application?
Yes. So when we were creating this part of our platform, this project, Ayala and I consulted with past and current leaders of the Writing Center to ensure that this was actually something that could happen. We have never put something on our platform that we don't think is feasible. And this is a testament to that. So in terms of the number of writers that are going to be available, we are not expecting that every student who comes to this session is going to be wanting to meet with a Writing Center editor on the spot. Because the Writing Center is, of course, open to submissions via email, and that's going to be their primary means of actually editing students' contributions. And so when it comes to our senior sessions, we are going to consult with the Writing Center further and determine how many students they're going to be able to bring to our sessions, and how that relates to the number of students we're actually going to be able to have during these sessions there.
I think additionally, what you'll see is that our description actually includes collaboration and students helping one another. So, referring to that theme of all of us coming together, of supporting one another. And I think your question was, wouldn't underclassmen be prepared? I think, yeah, if we all come together and we all put our best foot forward, obviously all of us want one another to succeed. The whole point of the call is to create a productive environment and to help students help one another. That's the main idea. I don't think you need a PhD to help edit a common application. You just need goodwill and patience, and the desire to help someone. So I think absolutely, number one, as Katerina said, it is feasible. We've already reached out. We saw that it is something that we can do. And again, we would never put something on our platform that's not what you will receive. As I said already, our platform, what you wrote down, is what you will receive, number one. And number two, yeah, I have a lot of faith in our grade. Of course, we can help one another. Of course, this could be a very productive and helpful session for students, and we'll accommodate people as needed. I mean, if the writing center is too busy, we can ask English teachers to come, which is already part of a curriculum for a lot of AP classes. There's a lot of ways to expand this if many students are interested.
Okay, so if there are no more audience questions, we can move on to ticket questions, where a ticket asks another ticket question. Since we have more time available, there will be follow-up questions allowed. So I guess Corr, Sela, you can go first.
I think Katerina had a question about fragmentation.
I do. So the online ticket mentioned multiple times that our grade is very fragmented. Could you give a very concrete example of how you've noticed our grade being fragmented, and how are your policies engaging all students, especially those who aren't typically interested in Caucus?
I think, given to our seniors here in Stuyvesant, it cultivates a culture where, of course, we put academics first, right? And a lot of times you'll see it, I think you know best, that a lot of students are not participating in our events, right? They're often confused as to what is going on in Caucus. What do they do? How are they helping us? And I think a part of that, we can't blame the student body. What we have to blame is the reasons why they haven't been coming together, the administration that's supposed to put them together. And that's because a lot of the events have not been catered to wants that the seniors do. Our events, of course, we do have academic advocacy, as you can see from our alumni mentorship and others, but we really want to make sure that this is your senior year, guys. This is your final year to make all those memories and have that sentiment where you're literally up until the point where you're walking across the stage, whether it be at home, you're graduating with your class, and this is the final stage for you to move on and move away from your homes. This is important now, and it's important to bring our students together, especially during COVID, because if not done properly and if not done under the proper leadership, what will happen is that there will be nothing. The senior year and the normal traditions will be tarnished, as opposed to not implementing any new traditions. And I think the past Caucus has set that culture of Stuyvesant, especially our grade, where you'll see cliques and you won't see students participating in your events. And that's because the events haven't been catered and there haven't been enough transparency to really tell our class I'm excited for these events.
Oh, all right. So Corr, Sela, are there any follow-up questions?
Yeah, I actually do have a question specifically about what you referred to about guidance counselors. Yesterday, I attended the college information session, and one of the things that they kept emphasizing was, please do not, make our lives harder than they already are. Each of the guidance counselors and each of the college counselors have such an enormous caseload. And they mention that time and time again. I think with your policy, you're almost forcing guidance counselors into this organization that's, number one, not that clear. Number two, why are you giving them more work? If students want to reach out to their guidance counselors, they have all the ways in the world to do it. They have more than enough time. Right now, college counselors specifically are sending out emails to schedule one-on-one meetings, which would handle that, number one. Number two, there are specific office hours for the guidance and college office that students can come in and have these interactions with. I mean, I guess my question to you is, number one, do you really think this is relevant? Number two, are you in a position to give guidance and college counselors more work? And number three, how will this be effectively implemented in a way that's not overbearing for counselors?
Yeah, I feel like that's a good question. And just to answer your question, this is something that I had said before, but we are not going over the way that things have already been done. Calendly is actually a platform for people to schedule meetings. So this is making it so that it's more fluid. And instead of having that back and forth of emailing,
And I'm just wondering what makes you think that they're going to want to work with this platform. It's hard enough to get teachers to all grade on one grading platform. How are you going to get so many adults to all cooperate with this?
Yes, of course. We know because we reached out to Ms. Hughes, and this is something that college counselors, Ms. Hughes is already using. So we know that this is possible. Like, this is something that has been done. It has helped her. It has helped her. So we want to open this up so it helps all college counselors and all guidance counselors.
So just to recap, we've gotten the approval on it. Thank you for interrupting.
You may question the Corr Sela ticket now.
So you guys mentioned something about a newsletter in the spring. So the way our policy works is that the same mentors that we've already had lined up, 20 or so, and this will grow, they're going to actually make their own info sessions from their schools so that students, when deciding on their colleges, can sit in and ask questions like, what is it like to transition as a Stuyvesant student? As opposed to when they get accepted, colleges will already hold an abundance of events, and the stress of choosing colleges is already off their back, right? The colleges will take it into their own hands to market to these students once they get accepted. What is the benefit of having this in the spring as opposed to ours, which is in the fall?
Well, I think that in comparison to your two policies, we have something that targets both of those things. In terms of general advice having to do with schools, there is a lot of information available in terms of going to info sessions and figuring out which schools you would like to apply to and speaking to your college counselors and doing all of that information with your individual mentors. And in terms of our Stuyvesant alumni panel that we mentioned before, this is the way that we would like Stuyvesant students to gain a better understanding of what it's like for a Stuyvesant student specifically to go through the college application process.
That unique experience, not what the college thinks that we think.
And when it comes to our newsletter, we would like to do this in the spring for a couple of reasons, and one of them is logistical. We have a lot of things lined up for the fall, and we know very well that when you take on too many projects, it can be very difficult to ensure that all of them are implemented very well. And Ayala and I firmly believe over quality over quantity. And so when it comes to these newsletters, we're trying to put together a resource for students to go and look at, not to learn more about the college because they've already done all this research. They're going to learn what it means after they get in and after they figure out which schools they're deciding between. And I think that this is going to be an especially useful resource, not just for our grade, but for the future, because if we have a list of resources that is available for future classes, not just sessions that are available for the class of 2021, which I think is something that you emphasized, which is the senior caucus isn't just for the seniors, it's for everyone. And having these newsletters available to future classes is going to be helpful, not just during the college application period, but in trying to decide.
I think additionally, what our platform and our specific policy regarding this represents, and again, the difference between us and Only, is that we're offering 2 events at 2 different times in the year. We're a lot more conscientious about our time and about the college process. And I think that we're planned for a much bigger long-term perspective. And their plan is okay. Like, I think that it's a good idea, and I agree that it's a priority. But I think what you'll see with not only this policy, but an abundance of policies, is that we take what they do to the next level, which is just something that we can do because we've had that support from past seniors, number one. And number two, because we have a really good understanding of what's feasible and what's necessary because of our time collaborating with SU.
Well, I think a follow-up question to that is that, like, a lot of students are right now deciding whether they see themselves at this college, right? It's not really the fact that they get accepted and they're like, oh, you know, can I really go to this college? There's a reason why they've chosen that college, because they know that they would thrive there. It's the fact that we already have alumni lined up right now to have these info sessions where it's literally a chat with a student who went to Stuyvesant. You know, what is it like transitioning from Stuyvesant to this school? What is the study life like? You know, how hard is it? What are the courses? What are specific majors you can take? These are questions that would help students along the way, knowing about special BA programs, knowing about special programs on their track for professional careers. But a follow-up to that is, you know, the college office are already starting with us last year. So why should we wait until almost to the summer of next year when we're going to college to do this, as opposed to in the fall like our campaign? If you can answer that.
Ayala, would you like to elaborate on that question?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I think what we're saying is you're asking about one event. I'm saying that at every single point, we're going to have that communication. We have 2 events actually that talk about both of those. And also, I think to answer your question, times are unprecedented. Things change all the time. So many seniors changed their plans this year for what college they were going to go to at the very end, as you said, right before the summer. And I think that just shows that that kind of communication is critical at that point, and it's not something that you're providing. So number one, that's important. And I feel like I've fully addressed everything, and your questions are kind of becoming redundant, number one. And the second thing I kind of want to give a follow-up question to you about something from before. Something that our campaign really prioritizes is collaboration. So not only with the caucuses younger than us, but also with SU. In the past, there's been tension between caucus and SU, and that's something that a lot of people have noted. And we have experience with the current administration, and we're both on the same page that that's something that we want to resolve. I'm just wondering how you're going to resolve that tension, given that you don't have experience in that field, number one. And number two, how you plan on mentoring younger caucuses, considering you've never been in caucus. What kind of help for the future are you going to give, the junior caucus that's going into this year with senior caucus, considering that you're going to figure out everything on the spot?
Well, I think one of the biggest things to note is that why is there tension between the caucus and the SU, right? Especially our caucus. And more importantly, why is it that all the times our students are complaining about where is the substance in our activities? Where is the presence of our junior caucus amongst their grade? But beyond that, looking into the new year, this is uncharted territory. We're in Corona, we're all virtual, the principal is new, we're willing to compromise, and we've taken the steps to make sure we are ready and know what lies ahead of us, right? Like I said before, and once again, this is getting redundant, the same way you said it, but the way we've talked to Hannah Jung, the same way we talked to Hannah Kim, the same way we've done work with administration in SING and BSL, both events that are crucial to our senior year experience, gives us more than enough experience, especially because once again, it's not just knowing what to do, but applying it in a positive and effective attitude. So I think that in our respective realms, being able to connect our student body, because once again, it's not just about maintaining relationships with administration, which are extremely important and which we're extremely right to create new and positive relationships, but it's the fact that where are our students in the center of this? Where are our students and how do they feel about these policies?
Absolutely, I agree with that. I'm just wondering, again, with the younger caucuses like freshman caucus, sophomore caucus, I don't really see how reaching out to Hannah John about senior year, which is what you said that you did, is going to help you with freshman and sophomore caucus, which is something that me and Katerina have direct experience with. So that's just one thing. And I guess another thing that I'm wondering is, as you mentioned, we have 10 months to get all of these things done. This is a really high commitment, activity, and it's a really long-term commitment. So I was wondering if you could cite any past leadership experiences that you've had that have been for such a long time and that you've been 100% dedicated to. I mean, one of the parts of, of the common application is you have to put down how many hours did you put in. And I think both Katerina and I can say that Caucus has been a massive part of our high school experience. And, it's part of the reason that both she and I limited our other events, because we recognized that we want to give 100%. I'm wondering whether you think that you can commit to giving 100%. If you can cite an example of you in the past being involved in such a high commitment for such a long time, and whether you'd be willing to put your other commitments down for Caucus.
For sure. Let me answer that because you asked a lot of questions. So for one, when it comes to working with our previous caucuses, mentoring can be done even as new, right? So we're learning things right now. And Hannah Jen and Hannah Kim, who are just our past presidents and had faced Corona right on task, we are taking the time to understand how to get ready, and we're ready to learn. We're ready to talk to administration, and we have started talking to administration. We started talking to guidance counselors. We started talking to our student body, making sure that we're encapsulating all of our students' wishes, right? And the second part that you talk about how what are our activities? Well, I think it's fair to say that we're extremely committed to our activities, whether it's with SING, once again, working with the administration, bringing our student body together for one of the few events that really connect us. And I think I can speak to anyone here who is a part of SING and even our grade. My presence within SING and my commitment to the things that really bring smiles upon our SING experiences will make me an even better candidate to make sure that our students are happy at the end of this year. And we have Ms. Falina, do you want to continue?
Yeah, and you asked about our leadership experience, so I just want to bring up is something that we talked about a lot. Ruth has brought up her SING experience, which I think is very important. She connected with the administration, with the student body, and that's what we're going to need to go forward into senior caucus. I was very honored to work with Soraya this year and other people to be the co-president of BSL for the past 2 years, VP before that, which I feel has taught me a lot, and we're ready to commit to senior caucus.
And commitment, let's just take the glimpse of campaign season. Falina and I have met every night, every 2 nights with our campaign managers, and midst of me working on my cluster job, which is due in 13 days. And once again, the reason for this is because there are times when, of course, college ups are super important, but taking a huge responsibility as senior caucus and representing our grade means that we put our grade first. And just our work within caucus and being here together, making that community, making ends meet to make sure that we're a united front, has more than enough taken this stance to show you guys and our grade that we are ready and we are so committed to all of you, even before ourselves.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but due to time constraints, I think that will be the conclusion of the ticket questions. There's just one question from an audience member that was asked a little bit later. So Abhishek asked, to Sela, if events and community has been so important, why haven't they been at the forefront for Sela? Why not be at your own event?
I'd be happy to answer that. Ayala and I are extremely committed to attending our events. We both make it a requirement for all of our members of our caucus to attend our events, because we think that if caucus members don't like our events, and if we don't like our events, who else is going to like them? And this is something that we have always done. We attended our pet rally. We have attended every single one of our lectures. We have been to the semi-formal. We have been to every single event, and we've been there the entire time. And I just wanted to say something else. In terms of Only's ticket mentioning how many times they've met in person and online, I would just like to say that only 2 weeks ago, my grandmother was very sick with the coronavirus. And Ayala and I are very committed to ensuring the safety of all of our members and not asking things of them that would compromise their safety. And so we have been very careful.
Literally sick right now. Katerina and I were 2 hours before the debate wondering whether I could make it because I'd lost my voice. I have a fever right now. And although we can't sit in the same panel as you two right now, Katerina and I have also met every single day for hours, not just in the weeks leading up to the election, but for the past 2 years. So, I mean, yeah, Katerina, keep going.
That's all right. I think you covered it.
All right.
Yeah. I just, was there a question in there? I just want to make sure.
Oh, no,
No,
I think
we're not in the question section right now. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that will conclude all the questions.
Any last final audience questions?
Can I actually know what your favorite ice cream flavors are? Like, it's important.
Favorite ice cream flavor? You guys want to answer that just quickly?
I will go cookies and cream.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah.
I have to say strawberry.
Mm-hmm. But just to reiterate, we are totally taking all the safety precautions. But once again, we have been self-quarantined, isolating. It's just our campaign managers really wanted to make sure that our campaign was as the most strongest as it could be. And we wanted to bring that fun and creativity. And in no way we were trying to say that it's not a bad thing that you guys haven't met in person. Of course, we didn't know the circumstances, and we're very sorry for the both of you who are sick or your grandmothers. I'm so sorry for that. But for us, we felt it was really important to meet in person and really get flesh out these details and be a united front, because only together can we serve you.
Yeah, so we did, before we came together here, we, of course, are not naive. We looked at the safety precautions, we made sure we were social distancing. We wanted to be together at this point because we wanted to be very prepared for the debate and make sure that this was something that was worth it for us, worth it for you, and make sure that this went as well as possible.
Or Sela, do you want to respond to that and give your ending speech before?
Oh, and also the ice cream question.
Oh, yeah, and the ice cream question before we conclude the debate.
So important. Yeah, so Vishwa, my favorite ice cream technically isn't even an ice cream, it's rainbow sherbet. And the reason for that is because, first of all, I can't really, okay, so not Vishwa, whoever asked the question. It's rainbow sherbet, number one, because I can't really drink milk, and number two, because I like tasting a little bit of everything. And I mean, if you want to connect that to our caucus, that works too. I think that we represent projects that are super varied and appeal to everyone, in the same way that everyone can enjoy like a different section of the rainbow sherbet. I think everyone can enjoy a different section of our platform. Inclusivity and equity are, massive priorities of ours. And for our closing statement, I guess what I'd like to say is that the Corr Sela for Senior Caucus ticket is united, is a very solid, united front and a very representative front to achieve one goal, which is, again, the same goal that Only are representing, which is to give the best senior experience for the class of 2021. Once again, I want to reiterate that I think that we're the ideal candidates for this on a number of fronts, whether it be our experience, our relationships, the variety of our platform, the specificity of our platform, the extent to which that we're thought out, the dynamic between me and Katerina. Also we're, are constantly evolving, we're constantly changing. You'll see that our policies are updated from years prior. So we've had time to, optimize ourselves as an administration with our platform. Transparency and student engagement are going to be at the forefront of our priorities this year. And beyond that, Only has, mentioned time and time again that bringing our grade together is really important. And I agree with that 100%, but I think that it's time to bring our whole school together. And I think that only we can do that in this election. And we've demonstrated that not only in years past, but also through our platform and through what we're promising. So we can bring the school together, and whether we win or not, Katerina and I will continue to be incredibly passionate, incredibly dedicated about all these issues. These are things that are, from the heart for us. This isn't something that we magically woke up senior year and decided was an issue. I think from day one, both Katerina and I have been really invested in these topics. Katerina, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
My favorite flavor is Java. And I, unfortunately, am unable to make that into as beautiful as a metaphor as Ayala said. But I will just echo what she said, and I think that she did a wonderful job summarizing our campaign.
If we'd also have a closing remark, just because the Sela campaign did. Is that okay? Yes?
Yeah, sure.
We really just want to reach out to our seniors and say thank you for watching this. And I want you guys to all think, how do you imagine your senior year going? And who do you see yourselves within these candidates? Of course, the Sela campaign is extremely professional, and they've done an amazing job, and we're going to give it to them. And we've been working really hard to create a platform as well. We want to ask you guys, where do you see in the center of which campaigns? Which of these campaigns direct straight to you and enter your heart and will create experiences that you will remember? Because once again, don't compromise your senior year. Don't compensate for anything. This is your time. And, just to end, own strong together, come together with us, and really see for who you see within these candidates.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
I think Ruth put it very beautifully.
Thank you to all who are coming.
Thank you for the debate.
No, I'm really glad that we're in an election where both of us really care. I think that's clear that we both really care. At the end of the day, the voter just has to decide who goes beyond caring and will actually do a phenomenal job. But I recognize 100%, we really care, you really care, and I'm glad that we're, part of a grade where we're so passionate and active.
Yes, so with that ends our debate tonight. Thank you all so much for coming, and I'll hand it over to Ava for some other announcements.
Yep, as Callista just mentioned, thank you all so much for coming and asking your great questions through the chat and live. Big thanks to our two campaigns, Only and Sela, for doing an amazing job debating. And so basically, this wraps up our final caucus debate. As a reminder, this will be posted on YouTube later today if you would like to rewatch any part of it. And in addition, tomorrow we will be holding a town hall for anyone who is interested to get to know our new Student Union President and Vice President, Julie and Chevalier, who are here today. So, yep, that's the real Julian, not the blurry one. So we highly encourage you guys to come to that, to ask them any questions you might have. And as a final reminder, Election Day will be Thursday the 24th. So if you are here or watching anywhere, please remember to vote, because it's super important that you vote for whoever you think will be the best fit for your caucus. So with that, thank you once again to everyone for coming, and have a good night.
Thank you so much, Ava.
You're welcome, Bishwa.